Welcome one and all to Big News Wednesday. Okay, it's never been super clear, Jayar Jackson, what is big about it? It's like big news, that's so vague. Today is big, not necessarily always in good ways. But anyway,
Yeah,
Jayar, you're back. You're sitting in your throne. How's it going?
All I'm saying is it feels comfortable. You're like, it's a different day. It's the same microphone. It's the same chair. Different hat, maybe. I don't know if I repeated this one too many times. But what's comfortable is that it's Wednesday. That's all I need to say.
It is. It's Wednesday. We've got news. There's, all sorts of other stuff that make today just a terrible day. I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, just the world is what it is, apparently. But
John, we're going to work on that.
Yeah, we are going to work on that. I have a headache. I messed up something at work earlier today. It's just not going well. I did the thing I always do on the Wednesday show where I didn't set up my preview monitor after doing the work I have to do right before going live. So today's going to be a little bit chaotic, everyone. Please buckle up as we go on this news ride together. But we do have a lot of news, JR. There's some developments on some of Trump's nominees, and it seems like some of the bad ones might not make it through. So, hey, good news, whoop, 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 whoop. And then other news too. A little bit of a wrinkle in the sale of InfoWars, a big merger being blocked. That seems like good news. And Marjorie Greene is a little bit scared of something that we kind of predicted on yesterday's show. And I appreciate her fear. Like the monster from Smile, I'm gonna marinate in her fear and grow stronger as a result of it. Not to spoil the movie or anything. Anyway, yeah, anything else, JR?
Was that a good movie? I keep forgetting to even
Smile.
check it out.
I thought Smile 2 was great. I thought it was really good. If you're looking for a horror movie, it was great. It's the sort of movie and the sort of lead performance that makes me mad that the Oscars don't give a damn about horror. I'm not even a huge horror guy, by the way, but like, it doesn't matter how you act in a horror movie. You ain't getting a nomination, which kind of sucks. But anyway, as appealing as it would be to just talk about movies for the next 90 minutes, we probably have to talk about news. So are you ready to jump into this, JR?
Fine.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm gonna start off with the good news, everyone. Put us in a better mood. There are whispers of a strategy apparently brewing among Senate Republicans that could lead to some of Trump's most deranged picks, particularly for crucial positions in national security, actually being blocked. They seem to have worked something out that might allow them to bar these psychos from getting into government, but also to maybe avoid an Elon Musk funded primary that could destroy their political career. And here is Caddy K to talk a little bit about that strategy.
My understanding is that John Thune, the senator from North Dakota, has to think, how can I protect some of my senators? He can't have all the same senators go out and say no against all of the picks. And so he's coming up with some kind of a rotation scheme. Maybe it's Tom Tillis votes against one of them. Maybe it's Joni Ernst votes against one of them. Maybe somebody else votes against one of them. The thinking is they can probably get rid of 4, and that includes Matt Gaetz. But you don't want always to have the same senator, because that opens them up to too much fury from the MAGA crowd.
Yeah, and look, so the strategy isn't really anything new. As Joe Scarborough goes on to explain, it's a thing they did with legislation in the House as well. I do just want to briefly point out that, like, fundamentally tied in there is a lack of courage. The like, well, I really want to block all 4 of these people because I think that they're a lethal threat to our nation, but like, I don't know, the primaries. So can we figure out something where we distribute it? But regardless, Trump is vindictive, and Elon Musk does have infinite money to primary literally every single politician in America if he wants to, and we'll talk more about that. But I'm glad that they had the strategy, JR. And right there, apparently in the talk, there's the number 4 has flown around. I don't know if Matt Gaetz is 1. It seems like, as we'll get into, Gabbard might be 2. We'll talk more about her. Maybe Hegseth is 3. RFK Jr. could be 4. I don't know exactly which, but blocking 4 of these monsters is better than I expected. And it makes me wonder if maybe with the Senate doing this plotting, and by the way, all this plotting could fall apart and they could all fall in line and vote for every one of these. But if they don't, maybe there will be some of the institutional guardrails that protected us in the first Trump term from some of his worst excesses. What do you think?
I guess, well, maybe on accident, these institutional guardrails, maybe not for the sake of the guardrails and they want to protect those, but more for, I guess, we're relying on the Senate Republicans to kind of save us from certain levels of disastrous decisions from this administration. But I think maybe the reason some of these things may happen, similarly with Matt Gaetz, there was some infighting or maybe even some folks who were thinking, yo, I don't want this. And this is disastrous even for me. So it gets to I think, a personal, not vendetta even, just protection of themselves. Because senators care about their careers too, to a degree. They figure the reason they've all coalesced behind Donald Trump now is because they're thinking, yo, this is the best way for me to advance my career. I'm better off this way. I'm better off being the person that follows behind Donald Trump rather than being the guy who fights with him and then gets booted out of the party like Liz Cheney is, right? But it comes to a point where they begin to think, I'm going to be held responsible for these decisions, for confirming these folks. And if they follow through on the things that we know that they can and would do, that's my name attached to it. I'm not Teflon Don, just that guy is. So that may be some of their motivations. And there's probably definitely some divisions between some of these new wave of guys and the old guard of Republicans who kind of never liked Donald Trump, but went along and acted like they love him so much. But now when it becomes their responsibility, there might be enough of them that want to not address or even allow all this.
Yeah, I like the idea that it could work that way, that, if they vote for these people and they come in and they do terrible things, there'd be consequences. I don't know that I have enough faith in either our political system or our citizenry, but look, if they're willing to risk Trump nuking them or whatever to shoot one of them down, then that at least implies that maybe there's still something buried deep inside of some of these senators where they think like, hey, I'm a real man or a real woman. I'm supposed to have an opinion and safeguard the country, Constitution, or whatever it is that they, generally pretend to believe. Maybe they do believe a little bit of that, because it would be the easiest thing in the world to just cheerlead for these unqualified maniacs and put them in these positions. Now, look, there's also a cynical way to look at this, and I'm not saying the cynical way is inaccurate. I'm just saying it's relatively cynical. Would be that their opposition to these candidates is that it's not that they really think that they're unqualified or they really think they do damage. They might think that they wouldn't do what their donors would prefer a person in that position to do. So not all of this necessarily is the red badge of courage or whatever, but at least they might stop some of these people that are utterly unqualified and would be dangerous in those positions.
And it does seem like Tulsi Gabbard's kind of topping that list after.
Well, why don't we turn to that? Because I do agree. So will Tulsi Gabbard make it through the gauntlet and become the director of national intelligence? It's looking a little bit less likely day by day, and that's what reporting from behind the scenes seems to indicate. Listen to this.
I had a chance on Sunday night to be at an event here in Washington. There were a whole bunch of senators there, and I asked a couple of them, what they thought of Tulsi Gabbard's pick, given what had happened in Syria literally over the weekend, hours beforehand. And they kind of rolled their eyes and just, shook their heads in some kind of dismay. There are Democrats amongst them. This is going to be a challenge for them, and we don't know what more material might come out of Syria in connection with Tulsi Gabbard. Are there documents there that could be damaging to her? She is somebody who has on several occasions sided with the point of view of America's adversaries.
Yeah, so look, I think it might be a little bit too cute to imagine that Assad's got a stack of documents of her being even more viciously pro-Assad than the public comments that we've already seen and all that. I don't know that stuff is likely to come out, but there could be bank records of payments, or I don't know. I don't think that stuff is likely. And I also think that you have everything you need to oppose Gabbard being DNI without any new evidence or anything conspiratorial or anything straight out of a Mission Impossible coming out of Assad's, mansions or whatever. I don't think that stuff is necessarily likely to come. But I will also say, the senators who have been meeting with her, not all of them are super impressed. One senator who hasn't yet met with Gabbard personally told Jewish Insider late Monday that other members of the Senate Intelligence Committee had told colleagues that they were not impressed with her performance during their interviews. One said, and this is anonymous, again, courage all over the place here. The Intelligence Committee members are really, really concerned about her. Her interviews have not been going well. One told me she was the worst prepared candidate and was trying to get by on her BS personality. So there's a lot of rumbling among members. And I really wish that they had given more information about what they meant by that. Because when I think of a person who will just try to get through on personality and vibes, I don't think of Tulsi Gabbard. Like, she's a really dry person. Remember when she filled in for Tucker Carlson and it was like barely a broadcast at that point? So I don't know if when they say her personality, they mean she just went in and said a bunch of pro-MAGA stuff like that. And that could well be what she did, because I mean, that's how she won over people on Fox News. That's how she won over Donald Trump. That's how she became one of the people who followed him around the campaign trail. It wasn't compelling rhetoric or anything like that. It was just, hey, I was a Democrat at one point. I used to be buddy-buddy with Bernie Sanders, and now I love literally everything that Donald Trump does. Maybe she tried to spin that same thing in these meetings. And I do think that will work with some of these senators, but it only doesn't have to work with a few, JR, for her to not make it through. So what do you think?
It seems like that BS personality comment is probably what you're talking about. It was probably a forced effort to have this personality that apparently she doesn't have. I hadn't noticed what you noticed before. I didn't also see her filling in for Tucker Carlson, so not too familiar with her personality beyond when she was, I guess, a Democrat. But so it does seem like it's an interview process. We know that it's literally an interview process, except when Pete Hegseth was going through it, he's going with the bull in a china shop approach. And I'm gonna be bullish, lethality, lethality, lethality. He keeps saying over and over again, and how he doesn't have to answer to the American people. Okay, but with her, maybe because she's a woman, she can't go with that approach. So she's trying to be this nice, ingratiating person who gets involved with folks who then hopefully they'll start liking her. But they know who she was, know who she is, and they know the BS that they're even participating in. So there's probably some levels of reading to the degree these folks, especially the ones that are formerly Democrats, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and how much they're trying to catch this, jump on the bandwagon and get some kind of benefit themselves. Because let's keep it real, these senators know the game because they're playing it too. Who knows? Maybe that's it.
Yeah, and look, I think some of them, they might be indicating that they might oppose her because if she is actually not well prepared, and look, I know neither you listening to this or me speaking at you knows day to day exactly what the director of national intelligence does. It's probably a lot of meetings, a lot of hearing from sources, collating reports, all that sort of stuff, doing directives. But like whatever it is, it's probably pretty complex. It probably requires a lot of experience. And just look, I'm not saying that she doesn't have any experience in the military or even with intelligence, but does that necessarily qualify for this? Does anybody get the impression, not just with this pick, but with the full breadth of Trump's picks, that he gives a damn at all about qualifications or readiness to do the job? Like when we have stressed that he's going to go for loyalists, we generally have talked about that as being a bad thing because we don't want people that will do what Trump wants, even if it's bad for America, against the Constitution or whatever. But there's also the thing of choosing loyalists because they're loyalists, even if they don't have any of the other capabilities. Like you could go for a loyalist who's qualified and someone who's more independent that's qualified, but that doesn't even seem what he's doing here. And these are important positions. And I just want to mention this because like, there's a way that some in the media have been presenting Gabbard. Like I see like dovish foreign policy being a thing that's thrown around. And that sort of language I think is used a lot these days to refer to people in the MAGA movement that have like opposed supporting Ukraine or whatever. And they're trying to extrapolate from that they have some sort of, I don't know, evolved concept of what American foreign policy should be like. And like, yes, maybe Gabbard, not that she would be in charge of this as DNI or whatever, wouldn't advocate for large scale, long-term nation building in Iraq again or something like that. And maybe that's even derived from her experience in the military. But we also know from years and years of her commentary, she's perfectly fine with the black sites and the disappearances and enhanced interrogation and massively scaled up bombing campaigns. And so I feel like Like just not wanting to do Iraq and Afghanistan again is now considered all the bar you need to pass. And if you can pass that, you are awesome on foreign policy. Even if it means that you would continue our involvement at a lower level in many countries for the rest of time, where we're gonna be going in and we're gonna be taking people out, we're gonna be kidnapping people, and we're gonna be bombing people, and we're gonna be arming rebel groups, and we're gonna be doing all the stuff that put us in the position where we eventually invaded Iraq and Afghanistan. We're gonna do all the 80s and 90s stuff that America did. And I've never seen anything from Tulsi Gabbard that implies that she's against any of that. People call Marjorie Greene anti-war because she thinks that Ukraine should be utterly overrun by Russia. First of all, she's literally calling for a military invasion of northern Mexico, but she also would be fine with any of that stuff. Is that pro-peace? Is that all that pro-peace has come to mean in the modern era?
Yes.
Is that, well, we didn't send in 100,000 troops, so what does it matter if we're financially supporting a group that's gonna become our lead terrorist antagonist in 10 years? I think we should expect more of our national security representatives than just that. Apologies for going off on the rant, JR.
Not at all. It all makes sense, but this is the thing though. It's similar like that analogy as far as pro-peace, and we're gonna have a non-wartime president with Donald Trump. It's the same thing when people, just because someone espouses 105 different racist and bigoted beliefs, they'll be like, oh, well, he didn't say the N-word. It's not like he used he called anyone any names. He can't be a racist, except the fact that he lives the entire life of one. Similar with this. So because you're not literally announcing an official war with a major country, then you're not a warmonger. You're not in support of facilitating warring type of things. This guy just said he wants to finish off the people of Palestine. It's not a war. I guess it's not a war because there's a huge, biggest army in the world supporting these folks that are killing many innocent people. So maybe it's not a war in their brains, but it's still killing people for the sake of pushing your political ideology on them, or at least, Netanyahu's genocidal tendencies. But still, when it comes to something like this, as far as her trying to fit in and be this one person that's gonna fit this match, again, these senators, how much are they willing to be on the line for being part of this type of a thought process? Are they trying to line up to the anti-war rhetoric and the belief system that Donald Trump doesn't believe in this either? I don't know, but that's gonna be the hard part. And I did read something about how they're tired of the bullying that has been going on as far as this standard operating procedure from the Trump administration, bullying these Republican senators. Bro, it's gonna hit ahead. These guys are egotistical. They like their power. And there's one spokesperson I read about yesterday from the Trump administration that was saying they need to understand that they don't have the power they think they have. You think they're not gonna hear that and be offended and be like, well, hold on, I'm Senator so-and-so from Arizona. I mean, I'm just throwing out a state. I'm not saying he's the guy or they're the senator that's talking like this, but they don't want their power usurped either. And maybe they didn't believe it, or maybe they're ready for that fight. We'll see.
Well, and we'll also see how mad Trump gets when he realizes that this is the strategy that the Senate is using against him. I'm feeling he's not gonna like that. But also, I just want to throw this up quickly before we move on to one fun little wrinkle. Trump apparently has a strategy of his own. They dispute this, but two sources anonymously, but they say they have familiarity with the transition team's thinking, say that Trump continuing to push for Hegseth isn't about getting Hegseth into the position. He seems to understand behind the scenes that the guy is toast. Is that if you keep Hegseth out there, then all of the negative attention stays on him, and maybe Gabbard can skate by. Which, if you're Pete Hegseth, how mad does that reporting make you? But also, okay, I hear you. I hear you with that strategy. That's why we're focusing more on Gabbard. We could do both. I mean, we can go back to Hegseth tomorrow if necessary. Gabbard also sucks, and both of them need to be blocked from these positions. But anyway, let's end this segment with a little bit of, I don't know, fun, not fun necessarily, but hilarity perhaps. Hey, what do you know? Another of Donald Trump's extended family is being given a cushy government position. In this case, Kimberly Guilfoyle. Donald Trump announced on Truth Social, bleeding, I am very pleased to announce the appointment of Kimberly Guilfoyle as the United States ambassador to Greece. Not the appointment, the nomination. It's not guaranteed just yet, but he will be able to do it if he gets in. This is the amazing money part. For many years, Kimberly has been a close friend and ally. Her extensive experience in leadership in law, media, and politics, along with her sharp intellect, make her supremely qualified to represent the United States and safeguard its interest abroad. I have no idea what experience she has in law. I know that she has, like a decade of experience at Fox News for media, so she does actually have that. I don't know what that has to do with being the ambassador to Greece, and also her experience with politics. I mean, I guess she's been around politics. She was, married to Gavin Newsom. She's the fiance of Don Jr. I guess that's something. I don't know if I was, the leader of Greece, if that would make me confident about this pick. But no, the money thing is she's been a close friend and ally. So is that him trying to pretend that the reason she's been a close friend and ally is that she's the fiance of your son? Maybe he's trying to avoid the continued appearance that his cabinet is just billionaires, Fox News hosts, and, well, in this case, a Fox News host and a family member, because he's got multiple family members that he's given these positions to. I will remind you, an ambassador makes like close to $200,000 a year. And she's probably not gonna have to do much work. She's certainly not qualified to do the work. What the hell does she know about Greece and their economy and their trade relations and diplomacy with them? I mean, she put up a message saying she's honored to accept the nomination. I would be too if I was given a position that pays a lot and I didn't have to do anything. But like, she goes on to say things like, it was the democratic values born in Greece that helped shape the founding of America. Look, that reeks of a person that asked ChatGPT, like, what's a thing you'd say about Greece if you did know something about it? And by the way, don't claim to love the democratic values when it's the Trump administration that you're supporting. She doesn't know anything about Greece. This is like a strong signal that the interests of Greece are not going to be front of mind for America over the next 4 years. But Jayar, what do you make?
Can I tell you what a stronger signal this may be, Cindy?
What's that?
People magazine reports, quote, Donald Trump Jr., who's engaged to Kimberly Guilfoyle, seen holding hands with socialite Bettina Anderson. Apparently, I've read through 4 articles, John. I know you may not want to push this kinds of,
smut,
salacious reporting on your show. But I read 4 articles, the New York Post even, the Daily Mail. Either way, all of them have pictures of him holding hands and going to dinner for the birthday of Bettina Anderson. A $1,300 bottle of champagne was popped. She posted multiple pictures on her Instagram and talking about to be loved and all this stuff, and did a small little link to Donald Trump Jr. Maybe he's the guy who's providing all of this love. And also, he and Guilfoyle haven't been seen together since like November 14th. But they do have their independence from one another. So maybe that's the thing. And now she's being sent off to be the ambassador in Greece. Maybe as a parting gift. Maybe as a thank you. We're done. Your section of time with this particular politically near person is now over. Thank you very much. He's moved on. Here's, I guess, your severance package. I don't know.
Yeah, there is certainly speculation about that. And some might wonder, well, Trump is so, I don't know, he's a petty guy. Why would he give a severance package? Well, if a person's been hanging around Don Jr. for literally years at this point, they know things. I'm not speculating about that. I'm gonna leave the tabloid reporting to Jayar Jackson. I will only say that when it comes to Don Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle, I think they both can do better. But anyway, yeah, it could be that, I don't know. I think it really comes down to Donald Trump can give out cushy jobs with the sort of image of power and certainly a paycheck, and he's just doing that. He's paying off all his loyalists, his surrogates, the people who support him. That's what he's doing, because he doesn't give a damn about these positions at all.
He doesn't.
Charles Kushner, Jared Kushner's father, is going to be ambassador to France. The father-in-law of Tiffany Trump has an administration job. Laura Trump could soon be the next senator from Florida and was already the head of the RNC. It's a familial dictatorship. That's all it is. They're just, it's Uday and Kusei just being given positions in the different departments. That's all this is. It's the swamp. It's just a personal swamp. I guess that's better. Certainly MAGA doesn't seem to have an issue with any of this, but I don't think this is any way to run a government. And I will say, if I was running like a government department to save money, go for efficiency, she's a family member of Trump. They're all independently wealthy. You could save some money, no salary. That would be a great reason to put your family members in charge. You don't even have to pay them. You could save some taxpayer money. I have a feeling they're probably not going to do that. But anyway, we do need to take our first break. We got a lot more to get to after this. if she does ever decide to write the tell-all, that's gonna be wild. Oh my God, I don't even know. I don't even know what could be in there. And you might think, well, she never would, and I don't think that she will. But there have been insiders, that have flipped. Certainly, she literally was with Gavin Newsom and then goes all the way over to MAGA. You could make that flip once again and think about what she could reveal, not just about Don Jr., but potentially about Donald Trump as well. Anyway, there's a lot of messages about Jayar. I am going to wait a little bit to read those because he stepped away for just a sec. But let's see. PM533 to one of my prior comments says in the members' comments, I won't be waiting for the Repubs to save us. No. I'm not waiting for the Repubs to save us either. That's why we're doing so much commentary and analysis about these candidates, to try to whip up opposition to them. But I also hope that they're undercut a little bit by the Republicans. Okay, let's see. Over on Twitch, there's a lot of JRs. JR. Squee, JR's here. Yay, JR. Perfect Big News Wednesday. Love the color on you, JR. Good look from Mapwa. Best news show on earth while JR appeared. A lot of comments and a lot of emojis, JR.
Well, continue to check out the watch list, you guys, because the color scheme is green and a little bit of blue. So if you like the green, let's just go with a little bit
more of it.
More. Yeah, we discuss all this stuff every day. In case you guys didn't know, watch list still goes down. We just do a little more discussion types, but there will be more full-on interview, discussion, chat type of things going down. So please keep us in your mind.
Okay, yeah, do that. Love to hear that commentary. I will say one type of commentary that I have come to miss is ever since JR moved away, I don't want anybody to talk about wrestling with
Isn't that
JR.
crazy?
And you know what, by the way? I'm less into it. As a result, I think. Yeah, because I don't get to come back and talk to you about Liv's title reign and when's Becky Lynch gonna come back? And I'm a little bit less into it.
You hate Liv Morgan because you're a hater, because you don't like success and you don't like fair wrestling.
I'm like one of the biggest boosters of Liv Morgan ever. Anyway, I mean, I don't think her title reign has been that amazing, but I think that's up to the booking, not to her. I think she's doing a good job.
Dom is.
But anyway, and she's got some cool new moves. That crucifix driver she does is pretty good.
Cool.
That is very cool. Anyway, there was one comment from Trish who says, JR, I was just thinking last that he should be a regular on TDR. And I don't know if that's a joke comment or if it's real, because of course he's been a regular more than almost anyone else.
What I'm discovering is a lot of people don't know much of the history. I mean,
It's been a bit.
I guess so.
Yeah.
That means your audience has grown. That means it's a good thing.
Yeah, maybe. Corporation State, my baby says, I miss the chemistry between JR and Jessica Burbank. Oh yeah, I miss Jessica Burbank's dry sense of humor. Obviously, Burbank is off doing amazing work. Just she's very, very busy with all of her.
Burbank is definitely on my list for more of the things we're talking. I've already spoken to her about it. It's gonna happen.
Awesome. Yeah, no, follow her TikTok, Instagram, all of her shows, YouTube, and all that. Okay, let's see. Yoda, member for 46 months, says, Fantastic Monday featured Big News Wednesday's Sharon and Trash Can Friday's Brett. Took me 48 hours to catch up on what day it is. And now what? JR on a Wednesday? Is it 2022? You can't do this, John. That's funny. Kyle Cushing, member for 44 months, says, John, there will be chaos. JR, exasperated, fine. Yeah. But there is some interesting news. We're about to get it. I love the next story we're about to do coming out of this break. Even if I have to give credit to a right winger for at least a little bit of what they did. Okay, let's see. Kai says, great to see you, JR. Just wanted to say, John, that your hard work and dedication to your job and the TDR community is appreciated and evident to those of us who come to you for news, truth, and laughter. Kai, that's super nice of you. Thank you. We'll be right back with more news. Okay, everybody, if you're just joining us now, please hit the like button as we jump into this. It was strange last week when I had to give credit to Greg Kelly for being real about Pete Hegseth and how unqualified he was to be the Secretary of Defense. Well, it is far stranger when I have to follow it up this week with giving him more credit, and not just for the commentary, but for, I think, bravery, kind of. Take a look at this. So apparently, his criticism of Pete Hegseth led to some real strike back against him and against Newsmax. And this is the most fascinating story. If you still believe for some reason that the right is committed to free speech and all that, they don't do cancel culture, they're not worried about political correctness, this story should hopefully bury that. So anyway, if you're not familiar with this, and we commented at the time, Greg Kelly, who helms the 9 p.m. hour on Newsmax, tore into Hegseth, calling him blackmailable, which he definitely is, because of his baggage, and arguing that he, quote, hasn't done nearly enough for MAGA to have earned the top job at the Pentagon. I don't think that should have anything to do with your qualifications, so I disagree with him there, but the rest I think makes sense. Apparently, soon after the segment, Trump's team got in touch with Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy to express the president-elect's displeasure with the commentary. 3 sources also said that Trump called Ruddy directly to complain about the segment, though Newsmax disputes that. They say Trump never called Mr. Ruddy about the nomination, and he never expressed dissatisfaction with Greg Kelly's show in any way. But regardless of whether it was direct or if it went through an intermediary, Newsmax apparently got the message, okay? On Friday, Newsmax Chief Operating Officer Elliot Jacobson convened staff at its New York headquarters to issue guidance in what one source described as a, quote, aggressive, panicked tone, which is the best tone. It's like how I like to do most of my political commentary. Jacobson said that on-air coverage of Hegseth needed to, quote, focus on the positive, the source said. Jacobson told staff that if guests bring up Hegseth, hosts should explain to viewers that the claims against him are allegations and then, quote, pivot. Any issues following this will result in termination. Now look, if you want to tell your hosts you have to call allegations allegations, okay, that's fine. You could even argue that that's ethical from a journalistic point of view or whatever. But to say only focus on the positive, pivot away if they bring up the negatives, and if you don't, we're going to can you. Well, that's the death of journalism. That should be the death of any network that purports to be a journalistic enterprise. You can't do that. Like, I'm not saying you have to be okay with everything your hosts say or whatever, but like, you can't tell them they literally can't oppose a nomination, not if you want it to be an opinion program. And so here's the thing. We're gonna talk about that, about the political correctness apparently that Newsmax is no longer gonna tolerate, or they will cancel your ass. But first though, the credit, Greg Kelly heard that note apparently, and then still risked firing to go up against Pete Hegseth, which is interesting. Let's see a little bit of that.
You though, once the name came down, and I love President Trump, but he's not infallible. And from time to time, personnel mistakes will be made. And I am allowed to say what I think about these mistakes. Pete Hegseth signed a non-disclosure agreement and paid money to a woman who accuses him of sexual assault. I was once accused of sexual assault, falsely. I would never in a billion years pay that person a dime. Pete Hegseth, that doesn't sound like a fighter. That sounds like somebody who's blackmailable. A lot of folks in the military leave behind somebody who is dear to them, perhaps a wife.
Yeah, Greg, I'm sorry to interrupt
you. If you don't mind, I do have to finish this thought.
No, you don't, brother.
No, we're good. So anyway, look, I don't know anything about the assault allegations against him. I don't know if they're true or not. Just because he says they're not doesn't mean that they're not. But anyway, he apparently is taking it seriously. And despite now being, it's 2 warnings. It's we'll fire you if you don't do this, which is a direct threat from leadership. And let me just be very clear. I have never received a directive like that from TYT, literally ever. You have to say this, you have to pivot if they criticize them. If somebody says anything bad about Katie Porter, you get off the subject instantly. Like, no, that's never happened. And if you don't, we'll fire you. I have never experienced anything like that. But also, Trump himself is weighing in. I mean, Greg Kelly is risking his career. I mean, I don't know how much that's worth or whatever, but like, that is something, JR. What do you make of that?
It's very, very clear. So this is the thing. I think it's one of the things that they want to avoid. The one thing that at least Trump world wanted to tamp down or keep from becoming confirmed was Trump himself calling him like, listen, we're going to have to make sure you guys stop talking bad about my nominee. It kind of matches up with the energy that's been pushed. He keeps going in front of news cameras and talking about how he doesn't have to answer to anyone else here except for Donald Trump. Went and did a cushy interview with Megyn Kelly where he performed so he can make sure he can bolster his nomination there when it seemed like it was in trouble. So it matches up for them to continue to try and circle these wagons and make sure there's no voices that are supposed to be in the conservative sphere saying anything bad about Pete Hegseth. Because again, MAGA world's part of their entire success scheme is creating this alternative reality for their supporters to live in. And then if anyone that's been listening and supporting Greg Kelly, liking Newsmax, because Donald Trump has given Newsmax some props when he was mad at Fox News, you can't have anyone step out of line and create any kind of question about what it is that Donald Trump wants to do, especially with someone like this. He seems like he's very much behind Pete Hegseth. And before Pete was not Mark Kelly.
Greg Kelly.
Greg Kelly was kind of given his name. He's, I'm ex-military, how come I can't be defense secretary? That was some of the jealousy that seemed like it was comical at first. But now, again, as he went on to talk about how blackmailable Pete Hegseth is, he seems to be getting more serious about this. I hope this is the energy that we're gonna see some lines being drawn in the sand from people say that matter, like senators who don't wanna see stuff like this happen, because again, they can tell how bad this really is. And Donald Trump just doesn't care.
By the way, why not just put him forward? He's got the same qualifications. I guess he was in the military. He hosts a cable news show, and he's been accused of sexual assault. Like, he has everything Pete Hegseth has. So anyway, yeah, no, this is just, look, the fact that Trump is going to try to weigh in and control what the hosts say, that's what Trump is going to do. I'm sure lots of politicians would like to do that. I'm not even really going to get down on Donald Trump about that. I mean, it does put the lie to the idea of them caring about the First Amendment, people's right to express themselves, whatever. But as the head of Newsmax, you need to be like, I hear what you're saying, President-elect Trump, and now go kick rocks. We're a journalistic enterprise. We don't work for you. We don't work for MAGA. We're going to do what we have to do. But the issue is that they broadcast to a cult. They can't do that because the cult will turn on them. If we could put up this, I think it's one graphic, like they're flooded with comments asking for Greg Kelly to be fired because he dared to go against one of the most flawed nominees in American political history. If you can't even oppose Pete Hegseth, there's arguably nothing you can disagree with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement on and have a career in right-wing media. And I know that that's how the right wants it. They want to never hear anything other than exactly what they want to hear. But I would argue, if you could pull yourself out of the cult for like a second, this isn't just not healthy for America. It's not healthy for you or your party either, because Trump is, as Greg Kelly said, fallible. And sometimes even the dear leader needs people to protect himself from his terrible decisions. Okay.
It works.
Yes. Well, with that said, why don't we transition to something very different? Let's move on to this. Manhattan prosecutors are saying that Donald Trump's history of what they term malicious conduct is so serious that his hush money case cannot simply be vacated at this point, no matter how much Donald Trump and his legal team are pushing for it. So we don't have a lot of time for any development in these cases, just 6 weeks until Donald Trump is inaugurated. But during that time, Trump has once again demanded that Judge Juan Merchan dismiss the hush money case, making it now his third time that he's tried to evade the conviction, or at least void the conviction. But District Attorney Alvin Bragg is saying that there is no actual immunity for the president-elect, and so there's no reason why it would be vacated. He says at most, defendants should receive temporary accommodations during his presidency to prevent this criminal case from meaningfully interfering with his official decision making. So for instance, maybe not like requiring him to be in court constantly. Trump's request for dismissal goes well beyond what is necessary to protect the president and would subvert the compelling public interest in preserving the jury's unanimous verdict and upholding the rule of law. And he says Trump's conduct during his hush money prosecution also weighs heavily against dismissal, as does his, quote, long history of threatening, abusing, and attacking participants in other legal proceedings in which he's involved. Trump's contemptuous conduct began even before his indictment was voted. The prosecutor wrote, all of this is true. I mean, remember, Donald Trump posted the thing which seemed to imply that he might bash in Alvin Bragg's skull with a baseball bat, and that was just cool. Tried to threaten and tamper with all these witnesses, all of what he did. And despite all of that, unanimous verdict from the jury that he should suffer the consequences for this. And so, look, I know that we've been so beaten down by the system that we expect that it should be vacated, and my money is still on that happening. But dear God, I mean, he did the thing, he did the crime. We're not even gonna get him doing any time, but could he at least pay for the fraud that's been proven that he did? What do you think, Jayar?
That's not what they want. But I do want to point out that, folks who are against this are still supporting Donald Trump's, his his march towards trying to eliminate this and get this case dismissed again, it's weird because they don't trust the folks who determined his verdict in New York. But they do with other cases, just one that just happened this week. I'm just going to point that out, that suddenly there's juries that they can trust in the same state where there's juries they don't trust, when the difference is who it is that's been on trial, whatever. But again, when it comes to them trying him pushing this over and over again, he just wants his record cleared. And this is the last stand to do it. Even if he doesn't pay the price, it's not even about paying the price. He knows that's not going to happen. It's just all about making himself look as clean as he likes to portray himself to be. It's all image. This is the way this guy is. It's image, it's loyalty, and it's looking a certain way so that he can play the part. He mentions things like central casting all the time when it comes to appointments, to people on air, to people surrounding him. It's all about an image and a look. This is as simple as, I don't want that on my, as far as my legacy, that they have this, even if nothing happens to him. He just doesn't want it looking bad for him. That's how small and petty he is. It's dangerous.
So, I mean, I'm not going to go into a whole big thing about my frustration with every element of the system, including the DOJ and all that. But like, he did so much of the stuff he's alleged to have done. He did it. It's been proven. How can it be possible that we can have a society where it doesn't matter? The mountain of evidence is irrelevant, but that is unfortunately the system we have. Okay, we're gonna take our second break of the hour. Important stories to get to on the other side of this. Okay, everybody, let's jump into some of your comments. Okay. Oh no, okay, so this is a comment about the pronunciation of a last name, and I know that I pronounced it right yesterday, but now that it's been pointed out, I'm sure I'm gonna pronounce it incorrectly. Carmine Mangione, I think, says, what a week to have my last name. Thank you, John, for being the only one in media to pronounce it correctly. Oh, also for everything else you are/do. Thank you. Yes, I think most people are pronouncing it Mangione, which I will say that even as a bona fide Italian, is what my first instinct was to say it. But I looked it up. What I try to do constantly, I hope every host does this, is I Google how to pronounce every name that I don't know how to pronounce. I think that's what everybody should do.
What's the matter with
so
you,
it is
John?
Mangione.
It's Mangione, not Mangione?
Yes, it's Mangione, not Mangione.
Oh, Mangione.
Alternatively, you can pronounce it ricotta. Anyway, I'm kidding. I'm an Italian, I can make those jokes. I can call him Danny Lasagna if I want to.
Do I get to laugh at them, or is that wrong?
Yes, I give you the ability to do that. Okay, by the way, I saw this is a comment on YouTube. Teacher Lori G says, thank you for plugging this. For those of you that love Michael Schur, Michael is co-hosting the Mark Thompson show next week, Monday through Friday from 11ish to 1:10ish Pacific time. I don't know how, if I can actually catch that, but I really want to catch that. I want to hear Michael Schur subbing for Mark Thompson. So I'm going to remind people of that each day this week. Actually, I'm going to save that. So thank you, Lori G, for doing that. Okay. By the way, there's some messages that are in the category of showing support for me, but in a way that I'm sure you will understand. I don't feel comfortable reading live on the air, but I do appreciate your support and your sentiments. Thank you so much. Okay, Savage Bear says in a super chat, the only reason she's excited to be ambassador to Greece is because it's her favorite musical. Dear God. Anyway, Sailor Digurin says in a super chat, Majority Report did a great breakdown of the crazy religious cult ties Gabbard has. Worth a watch for those who want even more concerns about her. Yeah, if you want to be a little bit more freaked out about Gabbard, feel free to watch that breakdown on the Majority Report. Okay, Starry-Eyed Dragon says in a super chat, JR, life is good now. Any fun sweets you like for the holidays? You know that you have the best tastes. Hope you both have greatest holidays. Yeah, you used to bring on treats onto the show. What's your recent taste?
Oh, I thought they wanted suggestions for what they should purchase for like holiday treats. Maybe
I think so. Yeah, I think so. What are you eating recently?
It's the same stuff. Nothing new has really happened. Like, it's the newest thing that's still gone down is these Skittles gummies. I feel like that's the newest thing that's happened, but nothing necessarily holiday treat-ish. Okay. It's a little bit of a dry spell, I gotta be honest, but still, I hate Three Musketeers and Kit Kats. Throw those out in the garbage. If you get some, throw it away. If someone gifts that to you, it's like a lump of coal in your stocking. What you should do is throw it back in their face. No, I'm sorry. No, I'll take that back. Unwrap the Kit Kat. Make sure that it's melted beforehand so it's sticky, and then throw it back in their face and be like, how could you give me this trash?
I want to disagree with you, but Cenk ordered me that if anybody criticized those candies, I have to pivot, focus on the positive, or I'll be terminated. You're insane. I mean, look, Milky Way is perfectly good. Kit Kat's really good. It has a nice snap. What is wrong with you?
Milky Way is great. Anyway. It's Three Musketeers that sucks. There's Three Musketeers.
Oh yeah, no. Three Musketeers is light and airy. I think you burn more calories eating it than you get from eating it. You can eat it all day long. Okay, I have a candy related thing I have to say on the other side of this.
Okay.
Okay, so normally this is the sort of thing that I'd say in the social break, but we were talking about candy. So I just need to reveal to you how I have gradually become sort of a strange little goblin elf creature, because I will occasionally try to not have sweets in the house, because if they're there, I will eat literally every bite of it. I cannot help myself. But I also get desperate and I will start to consume things for sugar that are not really meant to be eaten in that way. So I got a thing, and I think subconsciously I knew what I was doing when I got this. I bought a thing from Target. It's this big box, and it's like 12 cocoa bombs. It's a shell of chocolate, a sphere that's hollow, that has like marshmallows on the inside, and you put it into a cup and you pour hot milk on it or whatever, and it melts it and it makes cocoa or something. But that requires work. So I've been just taking the spheres and eating them, and it just feels wrong and right at the same time.
How does that work? I know these types of shells. I'm not sure about.
Use my teeth.
Yeah, I've seen these, but they break open, right? Next thing you have marshmallows kind of spilling. So how do you have an equal amount of both chocolate shell and marshmallow?
It's chaos, but I make it work anyway. I need help. I think therapy. It seems expensive. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna jump back into the news, everyone, and talk about food that's intended to be eaten as food, not the way I treat food. Anyway, let's jump into this. A little discussed story could have very large scale ramifications for you and your family when it comes to the area of how much you spend on food. And technically you'd have to file this story under the topic of corporate acquisitions. So maybe not the most dramatic and spicy story, but it is important, and it's good news, because Kroger had proposed a $25 billion effectively merger with another supermarket brand that would have produced the largest merger of supermarkets in American history. They've been working on it for a number of years. It would have been historic, but it has actually been blocked. A federal judge has blocked that merger, saying, and this is Judge Adrian Nelson, that the merger would eliminate head-to-head competition between Albertsons, the other company, and Kroger, potentially, likely raising prices for consumers. She also noted the potential for decreased pay for their workers following a merger. We've seen these sorts of effects before when supermarkets merge and effectively reduce or remove competition in certain areas. Now, in LA, we have both of these. We have Kroger, we have Albertsons, and we have other brands as well. But even here, where we have about as much choice for supermarkets as any other, you can be sure that this would have reduced competition. And there are other areas where this would effectively eliminate it, and you would have to go to one brand. I mean, they might still keep the names on the stores, but the money would all flow to the same place. They wouldn't have to compete, not just in terms of trying to get suppliers and all that, but as the judge pointed out, in what they pay their workers to try to attract good skilled workers. And so all of those effects would have likely happened. Now, Kroger tells a very different story of why it would have been awesome if the merger happened. So Kroger and Albertsons employ mostly unionized workforces, so that's actually a point in their favor, and said that they wanted to merge to be more competitive against non-union giants such as Walmart, Amazon, and Costco. The grocers also faced increased pressure from Aldi, the fast-growing German discount supermarket chain. So look, I'm not saying that there's nothing to that. It is good to have people working in these supermarkets that have union representation. Arguably, they already have that, thankfully, in those places. I would rather work on trying to get union representation at the companies that don't currently have it, rather than potentially reducing the ability of the unions in this new conglomeration to advocate for the interests of workers. And so they had made a lot of promises about what they would have done to reduce the cost of groceries after the merger. But we just know that historically that's not basically what has ever happened when these sorts of mergers have been allowed. And so that's the good news. There's potentially dark news coming. We'll get to that, but Jayar, what do you make of this? You lived in LA, you're familiar with both of these.
I start with the first point when it comes to things like this, to not really trust what these huge corporations and conglomerates say they're willing to do. It sounds great. Like, we have these unionized workforces. We just want to compete with these big guys that don't have unionized workforces. So as you unionize, and then as you merge, and then we know in many cases, as you pointed out, that also lowers maybe some employment benefits, salaries, all that stuff. So doesn't that come with it? There was no sentence about ensuring that they're not going to do anything like that. Maybe this merger will get them more on the same track as, who was it? The Aldis, the Amazons, the Costcos, and the Walmarts. I don't know, but they're pitching this like it's this great thing for their employees when we've seen in history that it's not always. So I'm starting with skepticism, but also it doesn't really matter because, as I think you're going to get to, they're going to find a way to do it anyway once Trump steps in.
Yeah, that's sort of the fear. So it is currently blocked. Obviously, I don't think Kroger's gonna be like, oh man, okay, I guess we'll go to focusing on bananas or whatever. Like they're gonna try to get this going once again, and they might find that either sooner or later, with Donald Trump coming in, choosing some more judges and also other important positions, maybe the groundwork could be laid for this merger to go through. And so here specifically, we're talking about the fact that Andrew Ferguson is apparently his pick to be the chair of the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Trade Commission. So nobody's surprised that he's not going to continue with Lena Khan's, stewardship of that organization. She's too opposed to these massive mergers that could do, a lot of harm to workers as well as consumers. This is like the perfect example of what he has promised. I'm going to let corporations do whatever the hell they want. And if that produces a merged Albertson Kroger's, that will almost certainly result in prices being increased. You'll also have them increased, of course, due to the tariffs and all of that. But none of this looks like the interests of regular Americans, even regular conservatives or Republicans, have anything to do with this. But in Trump's defense, he's never hidden the fact that he's going to let corporations do what they want. He runs on cutting their taxes. He runs on ending regulation. He's been super clear that his cabinet is going to be packed with people who come from these industries, who benefit from deregulation of these industries. And that's what he's doing here, even if it produces a lot of suffering for the American people, including his voters.
So just ask anybody who support this guy this one question. So, okay, if you've got a record-breaking number of billionaires in your cabinet, and then you've got someone you're bringing in that will make mergers, the ability to merge, a lot easier, and Wall Street, as I'm reading right here, is eager for this type of stuff. And then they're gonna pitch this as the economy is so great because more uber rich people are uber rich people. That's gonna be what we just buy as success. Bro, all the bad things that could come from these policies, they'll write off as good things. Because again, the most important thing for this regime is to tell people that up is down, left is right, and night is day, and they'll believe it no matter what the reality is in their world. So it just doesn't matter. And everything I say about these guys, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But like, if you're a MAGA person, what if any of this is for you? Like, what if let's see. Well, one trans lawmaker can't use the bathroom they want, so that's good. You got that, I suppose. And Adam Schiff might get locked up. So I guess you're fine. I guess your family will breathe easy. Food will be affordable because of that as they hand over money to billionaires. Anyway, let's turn to one more story to close out the hour, starting with this.
I've been watching this unfold, and I believe it's the beginning of a political movement. But what I'm more concerned about is we've seen the left push for socialized medicine for years. Bernie Sanders had Medicare for all. I hope this doesn't turn into where they take this guy they're praising, right? And make him some sort of hero that they all worship and then pick up the mantra and move it and go after other people.
Oh no, everybody, she's worried about that. Don't do that. Don't use this, regardless of what you think about the crime. And I think it was horrendous and it shouldn't have happened. But she's worried that people will once again start to talk about and think about, hey, maybe we could have a better, healthcare industry, health insurance industry in America. Maybe a better system is possible. Maybe Dozens of other countries already have that system and have had it for decades. Maybe us, the best, richest country in the history of countries, could do the same thing that so many other countries have done. And I don't know if Marge is watching TDR again. She has previously reviewed the show on Twitter, but I kind of called for this exact thing yesterday on the show. And so is this what people will do? I don't know. This really does seem like a sort of galvanizing moment for a lot of Americans. Their rage at this industry is palpable. And so I don't know if it's gonna lead to that movement, but I'm certainly gonna try to help it get there. I called yesterday for that's what the midterms, that's what the 2028 presidential election should be about. She's terrified of it because never forget, for all of her like down home folksyism or whatever, she's a multi-millionaire. She's a rich person. She's never gonna be worried about paying for her healthcare or whatever. It's you and I that might end up facing a little bit of trouble in that area. And so a lot of Americans do want the government to ensure healthcare coverage, and not just libs, not just lefties, plenty of independents and conservatives want it too. And so if the Democrats are smart enough to put up a candidate who's actually gonna push for that, they might find themselves winning quite handily in 2028.
Listen, this fake populism that MAGA and Donald Trump pushed for these years, this obviously fake populism that's now turning into a cabinet full of billionaires. They're gonna expect their populism. They're wondering where their populism is gonna be. So if you don't deliver any of this populism that you keep saying that you were all about, you're gonna find that people are now sounding a lot like this guy with wily white hair named Bernie Sanders. I wouldn't want these people who are talking about this whole situation with this murdered CEO and the celebration behind Luigi Mangione. Am I right? Did I say that right? Mangione, that's right. All the people surrounding about it to finally say, I think we were wrong about Bernie Sanders all those years. The things that he was saying when we said he's crazy and I can't believe he wants to take my tax dollars and put it towards actually us living longer. Weird how that works. Maybe at least accept that was the point the whole time. And now that they say, the left and the right, everybody all across the political spectrum agrees on this. If they agree on it, let's go ahead and nail it down then. And so people like Elon Musk, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and eventually people who haven't talked about this much like Donald Trump are gonna have to realize this fake populism, they believed your BS. If you don't deliver, if you keep saying these corporatist things and implying these billionaires to it, they're not gonna be very happy with you.
I love it. Like if you like fake populism, wait until you get a load of real populism. Actually, will deliver. And really fast, let's just go to Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh have both, like, again, they're uber wealthy. They're paid by billionaires. They're fine. They're never going to worry about this. So they assume everyone else will line up with them and be like, these evil lefties are, they're being so bad with this. And they're getting a lot of comments from their audience. It's like, it's not just the left that's kind of angry at the health insurance industry. Matt Walsh got the same thing. Call me a leftist then, one said. More than just the left. Being pedoed at the healthcare system is not a left-wing thing. Everybody feels that. That's what we've been saying since 2015. And someone someday is gonna be in a position to run and win on this and actually deliver for millions of people who have been super clear in what they want out of their government. Okay, we unfortunately are done with the first hour. We have more to come in the aftermath of Jayar, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. I'm John Iadarola. He's Jayar Jackson. Jayar, it is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Good times.
And Jayar is the host of the Watchlist, which you can go watch right now. I know most people know that, but every once in a while you see comments from people be like, "How come Jayar doesn't make videos anymore?" No, he does every day, and you should watch the
Don show from doing today.
I mean, it happens. I think I swore on yesterday's program without realizing it.
What'd you say? What word?
I think it was the S one, I think. Shibuya. Yeah. Anyway, with that said, we do have news to talk about. We're gonna get to more of your comments and all that. First, I do want to read one. Andre Williams says, "Don't ever diss Kit Kats." LOL. Okay, with that, let's jump into more news. Unfortunately, InfoWars stays in the dark, grubby, pork smeared hands of Alex Jones for now. The Onion isn't gonna be able to take control of it, at least as of right now. So a federal judge has stepped in and rejected the auction sale of InfoWars over to the Onion, criticizing the bidding process that went on that led to that sale, as well as how much money families stood to receive from the judgments against Alex Jones. And so that's the downside. Now, there could definitely be future iterations of this that move it back in that direction, but we do have to keep you updated with what's going on. So there was a 2-day hearing in Houston. US bankruptcy judge Christopher Lopez said he would not approve the sale, citing concerns about transparency in the auction. He also cited problems but no wrongdoing with the auction process. Nobody's getting in trouble with this. He said he did not think that those involved in the auction acted in bad faith and that everyone, quote, put their best foot forward and tried to play within the rules, but there were apparently enough issues with it that they're gonna block it currently. Now, the important thing coming out of this is that unfortunately, Alex Jones gets to like claim victory and then do his typical Alex Jonesy thing, which you'll see here.
The judge told him 27 days ago, Bloomberg's Everytown that turned out is the group behind it. The Onion's their front group. He told them they didn't know it and he said they need to stop saying that. They did not stop. Major cause of action. And I'm not a litigious person, but they're trying to destroy us and destroy free speech. So you know what's going to happen to them. And Michael Bloomberg, Mr. Baby Feet. Yeah, Bloomberg, we know all about you. So I didn't start this fight. But when I say I'm going after the bad guys, I don't mean the front group and these families they use to manipulate. They're just victims of this process. I'm talking about the establishment. So the judge just ruled in our favor. You know, we put in our filings that we believe a crime has been committed and this should be referred to the Justice Department. There's a new Justice Department coming in. I can tell you that they are looking very strongly at this.
Yeah, look, I don't know if they are looking strongly. I do know that it's going to be a corrupt group of Trump toadies and lackeys, so maybe they will. I mean, Alex Jones is fully aware that any ethics, any independence or whatever the DOJ, that's all gone. They may not have gotten Matt Gaetz, but they're going to get a whole lot of people who look up to Matt Gaetz. And so that was awesome, Jayar. That was chock full of great stuff. I mean, starting with whatever that facial hair is, I don't know. I think he just typed into ChatGPT, what would I look like as a cartoon villain? And it was like, what if you do this with the facial hair? And he's like, boom, I'm gonna do it. And then, they're trying to destroy free speech. So I'm gonna sue them for saying they own us. They just said it, man. It's just speech out of their face hole. What are you getting down on them about it? So he's gonna sue him, he's gonna destroy him, he's gonna take down Bloomberg. And then he throws out, remember, this guy who takes defamation very seriously because he's suing them over saying they own it. Something about baby feet. Bloomberg, I don't know what Bloomberg did with babies, but Alex Jones is definitely implying that he did something with them. I don't know if it's eating them, I don't know if it's sleeping with them, but something bad with babies. And I imagine Bloomberg's not gonna like that, Jayar. So I don't know. This is what Alex Jones does. I just want him to receive his comeuppance, and it's taken so long.
But you know what? A lot of this is so stressful for him. So maybe that's the level of comeuppance that you're gonna see. And also the fact that he shaved his facial hair. And I feel like you would know what this actual name is for this. It's like a medieval thing, I feel like. You know those swinging axes that maybe go through like some kind of a obstacle course that maybe Indiana Jones had to survive.
Yeah,
it's like
Edgar Allan Poe had that. Yeah,
it's like a hooked at the end, and it's sweep and cut your head off or something. His
like a
beard
blade,
is
I think,
exactly that shape. What is it called?
I mean, I think it's like a scythe blade. I don't know. Oh, pendulum axe. Yes, a pendulum. Thank you.
Think about it. Look at his face. But also, first thing I thought was Lex Luthor. Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor.
Yes.
You know, I don't know. I mean, the guy lost his hair. What he was supposed to do. Anyways, I don't like making fun of that. Regardless of all this, but if you think so, you think about the conversations he's having and the wording that he's using. So he's going after the establishment. You know, these people who did me wrong. I'm not going to go after the families because, you know, the families just pawns in the game of the establishment to try and get to me. Oh, really? Oh, so you're going to stop going after the families that you went after for all those years? The reasons why you're in this position in the first place. You say pawns?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, trying to imply that, they're just poor victims. No, they've been poor victims. That's why we're in the place we're in, because you use them as pawns for your conspiratorial games. So you could sell ground up gorilla pills and all that. Like they are actually, wait, so you agree they're victims then?
Well,
anyway, the whole thing.
Because he almost got his ass taken. So that's what he's talking about. I'm not gonna go after the families. Oh, we know why you're not gonna go after the families, bro, because that was the problem in the first place. Come on.
Yeah. So people have been pointing out people he looks like. Some people are saying Hugh Jackman from The Prestige. I'm not necessarily seeing that, but one person said there's Mad Dog Vachon, a Canadian wrestler. And if you Google it, that might be where the facial hair comes from. I think the Mad Dog Vachon's is more, fitting. But anyway, so look, it's going to eventually be sold. The only question will be, at what point does Elon Musk get to drop, the rounding off error of the interest he received on his wealth yesterday to buy the entire thing? That's it. There has to be some justice in literally any. Just pick one thing that we've had inflicted on us in the past decade, and let's have justice on that. I suppose we had the last 4 years. That was a nice little break or whatever. But like, again, if you can't get Trump on all the crimes he commits in full plain view, if you can't get Alex Jones after years and years of demonizing these people and trying to ruin their lives, then you start to wonder if you can get literally anything. But anyway, I do want to move on to other news. We'll get to that in one sec. I just want to mention, let's see, anti-TYT Musk bot's been here for 43 months and says, I'm AI. I don't think AI has been around that long. But anyway, thank you for being here. Jasper Cat's been here for 31 months. Thank you. Texas Dragon fan for 41. Much appreciated. Skittlebutt Dragon Rasp for 48 says 4 years going strong. So strong. Thank you. Okay. And Fregula Sharp Slicer says last night's bonus episode in Old School was grand. And JR, good to see you, man. A nice little rhyme there for you. Okay. Let's jump into this.
You were graded by the United States people, and they don't use your service anymore. You bankrupt.
That is not true.
You bankrupt this through your reputation only. Through your reputation, you are responsible for the fall of the Postal Service and the lack of accountability.
Congress is responsible for the fall of the Postal Service.
So it's Congress.
I am trying to fix
on your
Postal
watch
Service.
With all the AI.
Before my watch, the same stuff happened.
With all the AI, with all the computer systems, you're worse than if I took a horse and picked up the mail and delivered it 2 miles down the road. That's you. I hope you got that on camera. This is the response that the postmaster just gave Congress when he doesn't like what he hears.
And when you ask him to answer a question, he doesn't want to. Anyway, I love this. First of all, further proof, greatest deliberative body in world history. I'm glad we have a government and isn't democracy grand. But also, I didn't know that you could still do that. I thought you were supposed to stop that at like 5 or 6. You could just cover your ears. I didn't know that was like a shortcut to not having to hear something you don't want to. It's making me wonder if I could use some of the other childish shortcuts too. Like if I don't like a person, can I just start swinging my arms and walking slowly towards them? And if they get hit, it's really on them. Can I do that? I don't know. But anyway, that is the Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, who we have had to talk about in this show way too many times. More than all of the other Postmasters General combined, I think. And look, I don't know to what extent he's singularly responsible for all of the issues with the post office, but he has made a lot of decisions that seem designed to make it kind of incapable of doing its job. taking sorting machines out of locations, consolidating locations to put more strain on an individual one and make it harder, particularly in rural areas, to do the deliveries they need to. And nobody can dispute that the post office is in a bad way financially. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And I think the Republicans have done a lot of work over years and years to put them in this very difficult position. We're not going to relitigate all of that today, but that back and forth gives me very little faith that they're going to be able to extricate themselves from this position. JR, what do you make of it?
Well, it's a similar type of, I guess, approaches that people have. I mean, when it comes to, we're going to trim down government, get rid of this, get rid of that. And it's always the agencies or the departments or things that actually help regular folks more often than others, that they're cutting down budgets for, or consolidating this. And let's go ahead and eliminate that, because what do people really need their deliveries for? And sadly, I think many Republican supporters, generally folks that are a little bit older and vote more conservatively, like to use the post office more than maybe somebody who's 26. So it's these processes and thoughts of thinking they can do whatever they want, even in the face of the people who voted for them and think they like these types of policies. It goes back and hurts them. So rural areas are hurt. Elderly people are that. I think the example that always comes up is, how long before I get my medication? Things like that. And now you're fighting with the folks that always supported you. You're losing support in those areas. And again, it sucks that everyone has to suffer after, as we're seeing this, after the fact, when someone like Louis DeJoy then steps in and screws things up. And then we have to come back and show him how bad he is. Look, this guy, Representative McCormick, as soon as his face came up, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, we're talking about this guy and how he's fighting against Social Security and Medicare, because that's what he's on TV doing lately.
Yeah, that's true.
Like vehemently advocating for the elimination of Social Security and Medicare, because we have to do it or else these folks are going to be screwed. No mention of what they need to do in other ways of making sure that we fund our government instead of giving rich and corporations all the tax breaks that they want. It has to come back on regular folks. So I don't know if he's trying to play both sides of the fence here and being mad at Louis DeJoy, but they're all kind of fighting the same fight.
Yeah, look, why they have put the post office in this position, including having Louis DeJoy be in charge of it, is, I think, complex. I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. It's generally not caring about government, not wanting it to function, wanting people to be trained to think that it's incapable of accomplishing anything, wanting to make it, I don't know, encourage people to use alternatives so that the companies behind those can personally profit. That's one of them. And then we also can't remember, like, we're out of election season now, so we're not really thinking about this, but it seemed like some of the initial reforms that did the most damage to the ability of the post office to do their job on the timetable they need to was seemingly tied to trying to make it incapable of delivering ballots when it needs to and on the schedule that it needs to. And so there's a lot of potential explanations for this. But right now they have a lot of money that they're projected to lose, not just through this year, but next year as well. I haven't seen anything from Louis DeJoy that implies that he can take them out of that position. I do know one thing that Trump is planning to do for the post office, and I should have been able to predict this because of how petty Donald Trump is. He's planning on gutting the contracts that are currently planned to electrify the USPS's fleet of vehicles. So tens of thousands of electric vehicles, which again, like, it's a small thing, but it's taking seriously the challenge that we face when it comes to our climate just a little bit more. And no, they're gonna screw them over. Now, some people speculate that maybe they're just gonna kill it because it's Oshkosh and Ford that have the current plans of the current contracts. Maybe he just wants to throw it to Elon Musk and they're gonna do Tesla delivery vehicles or something. Yep. That's the sort of petty corruption I would expect out of Donald Trump. But either way, it has been in the works for years, and it looks like now it's very much up for question. Shame. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna move to one final story in just a second. I wanna read a few comments. Carlin, the True Prophet, says in the members' comments, how is the news these days different from a horror movie? Jeez. Ari Jean says, Big News Wednesday, hosted by America's cutest couple. Good to see you guys. Wasn't expecting that one, but thank you. Purple Rain Dragon says, is that JR I see? Good to see you, brother. Thank you for that message. A lot more just welcoming messages for JR. People were super happy to see you, bud.
Glad to be
And with that said, why don't we move on? Skeetlebutt saying Cybertrucks wouldn't even be good for mail delivery. Well, remember, the mailman's supposed to work, neither rain nor sleet nor whatever, that whole thing.
Or whatever, yeah.
It's going to fall apart if it's a Cybertruck. You can't do that. Anyway.
Did you see the thing about the snow on the front headlights of Cybertrucks?
Yeah. It's almost as if they did no actual research into how it would function as a vehicle, or more importantly, when the engineers who have to make it into a functional vehicle would raise concerns, it's almost as if a man baby was like, no, I think it looks cool this way, let's just leave it. It's almost like that. But he's a genius, and I'm not even a millionaire, so what the hell do I know? Anyway, with that said, let's jump into one more story. After almost a decade of dominating American politics and American political discourse, it's hard, I think, to definitively state that one thing that Donald Trump says, dear God, that picture, is the dumbest thing that he's said. But nonsensical, maybe? I think we have a candidate today. Here is something that Donald Trump bleated. And look, I don't want to get into the habit of just reading you something he said. I do think this is consequential, though, so I'm going to make an exception. The Democrats are fighting hard to get rid of the popular vote in future capital E elections. They want all future presidential elections to be based exclusively on the Electoral College. What? What are you talking about? Okay. So I went through multiple phases. Like, is this just trolling us because he knows the Democrats care more about the will of the people and the popular vote? So he just says the opposite of what he knows to be true. Is it that? And then I thought, wait, no, maybe it's a little bit more insidious than that. Maybe this is, if he presents himself as the person who's fighting for the popular vote, then some people who don't know the facts will be like, oh, I guess he must have always won the popular vote. And the Democrats think the only way they could beat him is by just winning the Electoral College. But that's not true. He only won the popular vote 1 out of 3 elections that he ran. So again, maybe it's his attempt to like pretend he won the popular vote and thus he's its greatest champion. But that's insane. You can see the numbers right there. Like, he narrowly won it, okay, this time around. 1.6%. He didn't even get 50% of the vote. And obviously in 2020, he was beaten by a far bigger percentage of the popular vote. And also in 2016 as well. And that was Hillary Clinton, but still. So the entire thing is ridiculous. I will say though, JR, look, if he actually means this, okay, then let's shift things over to just go by the popular vote. I'll call his bluff on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm getting the Ro Khanna type of approach. You remember when Ro Khanna was talking about the Doge, stupid ass Doge agency? And he goes, if you guys want to cut military spending, let's cut military spending. If you want to cut all these things that are bloated and things that Republicans like to bloat our budgets with, cool, let's cut them. I'm ready to work with you guys, and maybe give him this honest approach. And if they want to take his offer up on that, then they will. Maybe this is similar. So by the way, anyone who actually does want the popular vote, as many as you guys have talked about, Democrats want it because, again, it's the will of the majority of the people in the country and not just focusing on all of these, fewer populated states. Every time someone wants to argue about popular vote from now on, be like, yeah, you know what? I understand why you disagree with Donald Trump. And as a MAGA or conservative person, or just Trump voter in general that calls himself independent, they may have to be conflicted with going against the dear leader because he did say it. I'm not holding up my breath for that because it's obviously there's been many times that you can approach folks with the, the crazy and actually anti-Trumpian things or what he portrays himself to be that he said, and they'll be like, no, that's okay. I'll blow that off to the side and act like he didn't actually say it. But again, bro, good idea. Let's pursue that. Any legislator should start introducing legislation saying, I'm introducing the Donald Trump Popular Vote Act.
Yeah. Well, okay, look, I think we can adapt that because as we've talked about previously on the show, there is this thing called the National Popular Vote Compact, okay? With the idea being that it's a bunch of states that have said, we're going to distribute our electoral votes, not based on the popular vote inside of our state, but just the popular vote nationally. And if you get enough states that represent 270 electoral votes, then what you have in practice is arguably the popular vote being the only thing that matters. Now, we're not there yet. Currently, it's been enacted into law by 17 states and the District of Columbia. That represents 209 of the 270 electoral votes needed to activate the law. So they're not doing it until they get the 270. And so, there's also a number of other states, 7 states that have 74 more electoral votes have passed in at least one legislative chamber. So maybe a renewed push, and it could be the Donald J. Trump popular vote pact or whatever. If he actually loves it, I don't think he's going to fall into that trap. I think at some point someone will pull him aside and be like, the popular vote isn't what you think it is. It's not just populism, that fake thing that you pretend to support or whatever. But maybe we could run on this a little bit. That would be nice.
Like what I talked about earlier, all he cares about is his popularity, and he can be deluded from the reality of it as long as he says it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for Big News Wednesday. JR, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
We should do this again, John.
We should. We would love to get you on a recurring basis. Let's actually set that up.
Let's try that.
Okay. Well, and everyone out there, tomorrow, Francesca will be here. She wasn't here for Fantastic Monday, but I hear that Thursdays can be pretty fantastic too. And so we're going to test that out with Francesca tomorrow. Brett will be here for Friday, so that's very exciting as well. Lots to look forward to. I'll talk to you soon. Until then, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there.